Good morning يا حلوين. Our lesson today is light reflection. What is meant by light reflection? For example, as a tennis ball, when I throw the tennis ball toward the wall, it will return again toward me. This is the same like in the light. When the light falls on an object, it will return again and reflect. And this is called light reflection. So what is meant by light reflection? It is returning back or bouncing back of light rays when it falls on a reflecting surface. Any surface is considered as a reflecting surface. Okay, so this is our lesson, light reflection, and this is the definition of light reflection. We have two types of reflection. You knew them in primary 5. We have two types of reflection, which are regular reflection and irregular reflection. You have two types of reflections, which are regular reflection and irregular reflection. Okay? Now, the types of reflection. We have two types. We said that we have two types. When the light rays falls on a reflecting surface and all the light rays are reflected in the same direction, this is called regular reflection. Okay. When the light rays falls on a reflecting surface and the light rays are reflected in different directions, so this is called irregular reflection. And كده we have two types of reflection, regular reflection and irregular reflection. What is meant by regular reflection? It is a reflection of light when it falls on a surface, like a smooth surface. It must be smooth surface to be regular reflection, and shiny, okay, to reflect all the light rays in one direction. Okay, at the other side, in irregular reflection, the surface must be rough surface. So when the light rays falls on a rough surface, they are reflected in different directions. They are reflected in different directions, and this is called irregular reflection. يبقى أنا عندي كده two types of reflections, regular reflection and irregular reflection. Irregular reflection takes place when the light falls on a smooth surface. Irregular reflection takes place when the light falls on a rough surface. In regular reflection, all light rays are reflected in one direction. Irregular reflection, all light rays are reflected in different directions. Okay, حلوين? So in regular reflection, we can see our image, like in the mirror. When the light falls on the mirror considered as a smooth surface and shiny, so all light rays will reflect in one direction. Okay? But in irregular reflection, we can't see our image, as the light rays falls on a rough surface and reflected in different directions. تمام يا حلوين؟ ده كده الجزء ده المفروض احنا سمعنا عنه في primary 5. الكلام بقى المهم من اول الجزء اللي جاي ده. So pay attention please. The law of light reflection. Look at the opposite figure. شايفين opposite figure ده كويس؟ I have many components here. Incident ray. Can you see the incident ray? And reflected ray. And the line called normal, اللي هو perpendicular line، وبعدين عندي الانجل اوف انسيدنس والانجل اوف ريفلكشن. البلو لاين اللي عندي من تحت ده اللي هو الريفلكتنج سيرفيس، اوكي، والبوينت دي اللي انا مشاوره عليها ديت اسمها point of incidence. تمام يا حلوين؟ يبقى انا عندي كده الانسيدنت ray اللي هو اللايت ray that falls on a reflecting surface. اوكي، طيب reflected ray اللي هو مين؟ light ray that is reflected from the point of incidence. And the normal, what is the normal? The normal is the perpendicular line on a reflecting surface. وبعد كده عندي angle of incidence. This is what is meant by angle of incidence. This is the angle between incident ray and normal. طيب angle of reflection. What is meant by angle of reflection? This is the angle between reflected ray and the normal. اوكي، الكونسبتس ديت لازم تعرفوها كويس قوي قبل ما اتكلم على اللو of light reflection. تمام، pay attention. Number 1, angle of incidence. What meant by angle of incidence? It is the angle between incident light ray and the line perpendicular. mean line perpendicular to the reflecting surface دوت اللي هو اسمه ايه؟ normal. يعني انا ممكن اقول line perpendicular to the reflecting surface and I can say the normal line. Okay, at a point of incidence. The concept number 2, angle of reflection. It is the angle between reflected light ray and the line perpendicular اللي هو normal to the reflecting surface at point of incidence. It's so easy. بعد كده عندي the incident light ray اللي هو اللايت ray بقى ذات نفسه مش الانجل. خلي بالك انت عندك incident ray و angle of incidence sorry، وعندي reflected ray و angle of reflection. اوكي، طيب the incident light ray و reflected light ray. عندي ال incident light ray اللي هو narrow light beam. It is a light which is represented by a straight line زي ما أنا شايفاه عندي في الرسمة كده represented by a straight line. It intersects with the reflecting surface at point of incidence. وهو عمل intersecting عند a reflecting surface with at point of incidence. Okay. طيب reflected light ray. reflected light ray هو برضو narrow light beam which represented by برضو straight line that is reflected. يبقى أنا عندي incident light ray كنت بقول that is intersects اللي هو folds on a reflecting surface. طيب في reflected light ray ما ينفعش أقول intersect، ما ينفعش أقول folds، لازم أقول it reflected from a reflecting surface and the point of incidence. اوكي، دي الكونسبتس اللي في اللايت ريفلكشن اللي لازم تكون عارفها كويس جدا. اتفقنا يا حلوين؟ مفيش اي حاجه في الكونسبتس دي. Now what happens when the light ray falls perpendicular on a reflecting surface? When the incident light ray falls perpendicular on a reflecting surface, it will reflect on itself. What I meant by reflect on itself? This means that there is no angle of incidence and there is no angle of reflection. Both of them equal 0. Okay? So when the light ray falls perpendicular on a reflecting surface, it will reflect on itself as the angle of incidence equal to the angle of reflection equal 0. And this is a give reason questions, very, very important questions. Okay, give reason. The incident light ray, which falls perpendicular on a reflecting surface, reflects on itself because the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection equal 0. And maybe what happens when the light ray falls perpendicular on a reflecting surface? The answer will be it will reflect on itself as the angle of incidence equal the angle of reflection equal 0. Okay, and this is the figure of the light ray falls perpendicular on a reflecting surface. What happens? It will reflect on itself. Okay, now the law of light reflection. We have two laws of light reflection. The first law says that the angle of incidence equal to the angle of reflection. When we look at the opposite figure, this figure, we see that the angle of incidence equal to the angle of reflection, and this is the first law in light reflection. Okay, يبقى لو جالك كده في scientific term the angle of incidence equal to the angle of reflection, answer بتاعتي تبقى ايه؟ the first law of light reflection. Okay, طيب, in the first law we are talking about angles. Now in the second law we will talk about the light rays, the incident ray and the normal line and the reflected ray. Okay, so what is meant by the second law of reflection? The second law of reflection said the incident light ray and the reflected light ray and the normal perpendicular to the reflecting surface, all of them at point of incident, okay, all of them lie in a plane. This plane perpendicular to the reflecting surface. Again, أنا عندي second law of light reflection. What is meant by second law of light reflection? Second law talking about the light rays only, which are incident ray, normal line, and reflected ray. Okay, what is meant by second law of light reflection? It said that the incident light ray and reflected light ray and the normal at point of incidence to reflecting surface, all of them are in the same plane, and this plane perpendicular to the reflecting surface. Okay, at the end we have here a note that say the light ray perpendicular to reflecting surface is reflected on itself, as here, where the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection equals 0, like in this figure. There is no angle of incidence and there is no angle of reflection. Okay, حلوين? Okay. Okay, حلوين. Now I have a problem. Calculate the angle of reflection and the angle of incidence in each case. In case A, مديني 30 degree, بيقول لي calculate the angle of incidence والangle of reflection. طيب, a 30 degree date, which angle? This is the angle between incident light ray and reflected light ray. So this is not angle of incidence. The angle of incidence must be the angle between incident light ray and the normal. Okay? طيب, how can I calculate the angle of incidence? I know that the angle between the normal and reflected surface equal 90. ازاي انا قلت 90؟ عرفت منين 90؟ عشان انا قلت ان النورمال perpendicular on a reflecting surface, يبقى equal 90 degree. Okay, so I can calculate the angle of incidence by 90 minus 30 equal 60 degree. يبقى أنا كده in case A ال angle of incidence equal 60 degree. طيب أنا من ال first law of light reflection I know that the angle of incidence equal to the angle of reflection. وأنا هنا I calculated the angle of incidence equal 60. يبقى أنا على طول ال angle of reflection equal إيه؟ 60. تمام؟ طيب in case B أنا عندي هنا مديني ال value of angle between incident light ray and reflected light ray. مديني الانجل كلها بتاعت ايه؟ both of angle of incidence and angle of reflection, both of them together. طيب how can I calculate each one? angle of incidence وال angle of reflection لوحدهم هعمل ايه؟ هعمل 30 divided 2 عشان انا عندي ال angle of incidence equal to the angle of reflection. يبقى 30 divided 2 أنا كده ال angle of incidence equal 15 وال angle of reflection equal إيه؟ 15. أوكي يا حلوين؟ طيب أنا ال problem بتاعتي ممكن تيجي by two ways. ممكن تيجي drawing كده مرسومة زي ما هي مرسومة قدامكم، وممكن تيجي written problem يعني problem تانية مكتوبة. هتيجي ازاي؟ يعني أنا مثلا in case A بدل ما هي مرسومة كده قدامك أجي أقولك إيه؟ if you know that the angle between incident light ray and reflected surface equal 30 degree, calculate the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. يبقى أنا لازم أرسم الكلام دوت قدامي وأكتب number 30 دي between the incident light ray و between the reflected surface. Then I calculate إيه؟ angle of incidence and angle of reflection. ماشي يا حلوين؟ اوكي